Hi there. My name is Delta, and in this video, I'm going to be going over uh, ward spots that are relevant to your pups. There have been a lot of videos talking about warding in terms of neutral camps, but that's been done over and over again. So what this is going to be talking about, not about neutral camps and where to block and stuff, but more so for other ward spots outside of the neutral camps. Right now, we're going to start off with if you're supporting as a radiant support. We're just talking about different places you can put your wards down to protect your teammates and give good vision. A lot of the times in your pubs, you get flamed for like, oh, we don't have vision, no wards, or like, we need wards over here. This is supposed to help out with that, to help you be better prepared for good wards. And always remember that even if you're playing core, extra 75 gold will help not only just your supports, but also help you. So it's a win-win. Everyone can buy wards. So as a support on Radiant, good spots you can ward. The normal ward spots that you'll usually see sometimes in your pubs, especially in the low-level pubs, is that they'll put a ward, here in the beginning, or they'll like put a ward here for the mid lane. These are pretty good wards in the beginning. There's nothing wrong with these ward spots, except that usually in the early game, and the first 7 minutes that these wards last, this ward is not going to help you that much. This ward is usually good around like after the 4 to 5 minute mark when the other supports start to roam. So you can probably put your second wards down in this area to help secure your jungle, because you really want your carry to be safe, especially during that first nighttime. So that's a good ward spot to have. Of course, there's also the turtle ward to get just a little bit deeper. You're not as aggressive on this ward spot, but you get the same. You get the room vision. You get to see a little bit up your cliff, which is good. You get to see this rotation. You get to see this rotation here. So these ward spots are generally better during the first during the first night. Those ward spots are good. Other good ward spots to have, especially starting off during the lane. One of the best ward spots that you can have is this one right here. You can actually quickly get out and put this ward down outside of the tower vision, and if you can beat the offlaner to this spot, like if you get out by your wards and just immediately start running out here, you can put this ward down, and when you put that ward down, you get vision all the way up to their tower. You don't see it quite up to their tower, but this will definitely allow you to see what's going on in the upper part of the lane. And when it gets to nighttime, I'll show you the significance of this ward. If you can get closer, then yeah, that's good, but the offlaner will see it, and then they'll know that ward is there. So this is why you really kind of just want to put this ward down behind the trees. Sometimes you will see pro players that they will go up and they'll put this ward down like all the way up here, like they'll walk all the way to the tree line and put it here, and that's a pretty good advanced move, but that's assuming that they can beat the offlaner to that spot. In your pub play, normally you'll see the offlaner immediately run down, like they immediately come down and they try to block off your camp. This is why it's super important to just, instead of as a support, run to your rune spot. Run to the rune spot to help your mid or whatever grab the rune. It's really just more important as a support just to run this way. You run this way, and if the enemy offlaner tries to block off your camp here, or is trying to get a ward here, then you can immediately see that and you can de-ward it with your sentry. So as you can see, our creeps are pushed up here, but during nighttime, you don't have vision up here, like at all. Okay, so as you can see, it's nighttime, and if we didn't have this ward here, and say our carries, farming over here underneath their tower, and they're farming like in this area, and you're support, and you're like, all right, I want to zone out the offlaner, but I can't see anything at all. If you put that original ward down here, then you can see, like you can see all the way up on the lane, and then you can it really helps effectively stun off the offlaner, especially during the first night, and it really allows you to gank the offlaner, especially when you can't see him, because vision is very important, not just ward vision, but also day and nighttime vision. So always think about that. Like I said, we're going over these ward spots. That's pretty much what covers early game warding. Everyone knows about this ward spot to help for defense, and this ward spot is pretty good for defense as well. Another ward spot that you can look at, which will help out, say you know that the enemy is really being aggressive on their wards and you just can't get out there. Like, you can't get into this area here. Good defensive ward to put down is here. Sometimes you'll see the enemy put a ward down here as well. It's not a bad ward spot. This will help protect your lane. This also is not a bad one as well. If you just you can't get out there. This helps protect your safe lane. Any safe lane rotations here. Just unconventional ward spots to help keep your lane safe. So this one here and this one here are good secondary options to have. In the mid lane ward, a lot of people already know about this. You can put it here. This will keep most of the time your mid laner safe. You can even put it out just a little bit further out, because normally people will expect that ward, and they'll see it and they'll just do ward it quite immediately. And of course, you can have a ward here. And those are pretty commonly known ward spots. Now we're starting to get into a little bit more aggressive warding. So we're going to move that now into that portion of the video. Alright, let's say you're an offlaner. You want to protect yourself from the enemy supports, but you have your ward given you by your good support, and you're trying to figure out, okay, where's the best spot? You already know, people already know about this ward spot. This is kind of, it's out of the way. You can block here. You can even, put it out a little bit farther out. You get more vision. All that's good and dandy. Sometimes, if you're in a little bit higher level pub where enemy supports are going to be buying sentries, or you're an invis hero, you're playing an invis hero and you know that sentries are coming, another good ward spot to put down which will not block the camp but will give you equally as good vision is putting a ward down right here. You put the ward down right there, and you get, looking at the vision, you get all of this. You get to see rotations coming out here. These rotation spots, you get to see if the enemy lane is pulling. You get to see vision all the way down here, so if they're trying to wrap around and gank you, you get to see if they're going to do double pull, and you get to help out your mid laner a little bit by seeing this pull. Now, one kind of advanced thing that you can do that will always help you out is chopping down trees, especially if you're an offlaner. So you chop down this tree, for 5 minutes that tree is gone, and look, you just expanded your vision by a shit ton. That is always important. And of course, you chop down this tree, you get a little bit more vision as well. Chopping down trees where you can will always help you out. A little bit further out, let's say the laning phase is broken down, and your support, and you can, if your wards, you're like, where can I ward, where can I ward, where can I ward? A good spot to ward is actually right here. You ward here, as you can see, it's outside of the tower range, but the tower can actually see that far. There's trees there, so they won't be able to see you, but the creeps will. If you're walking here and there's creeps walking by, they'll see you. But this is a good ward spot. It's a little bit different because most of the time people put their wards like on the steps, and so it will see it if you put it over there, but sometimes they might miss it and they might put it somewhere else. But this ward spot is generally good because it does allow you to see into this meeting camp area. It allows you to see rotations coming here if they're going to go farm that spot, and a little bit higher up. This is a little bit different part of a ward. You put it here. The advantages of this ward, a lot of people know about this ward, is that you get to see this, you get to see a little bit up into here, this area, and more importantly, you get to see this vision as well. Putting the ward down here is a little bit more obvious, but it does allow you to see that rotation and the rune which is also important for the dire mid laner, but that's just a little bit more obvious. Chopping down this tree will give you more vision, and it actually will also block the camp here. So if you know there's a jungler coming, you can chop down that tree and then block the camp. Sneaky, you know? Other good ward spots, a lot of people know about this ward spot. That's pretty common knowledge ward spot, and they know about this ward spot as well. Those are just classic spots to put the wards down. An alternate spot to put the ward down if you're playing really aggressive as Radiant is putting it here. You put the ward here. Not only will the common sentry plant will not get dewarded by this sentry spot or this sentry spot if they're like, okay, where's the vision? But if you look at where how much vision you actually get on the mini map, you get to see not only anybody farming here, you get to also see somebody farming here, or you get to see a little bit into the farm here, because any enemy carry that wants to farm is going to be coming up in these steps, and you get to see a little bit if they're pulling the wave back. You get to see the rotation. You get to see the rotation coming up both here and here just a little bit. So it's a little bit different part of the ward spot, and it does actually give you a good amount of intel on where the enemy carry or anybody who's farming the jungle can be. And most of the time, this ward does not get dewarded. It stays up the full 7 minutes. Of course, you can also put wards, here, up here, or here. These will help out in this spot as well. More aggressive wards that you can put down will be deeper lane wards. Now, normal times you'll see this in pro play, that they'll come over here behind the tier 1 tower and put this ward down, especially if you're trying to push this tier 1 tower. This ward is invaluable completely because it gives you so much information, especially when you're trying to push. It gets you to see if anybody's trying to, any dire supports are coming into this this patch of woods, and you can always enter this if they don't have vision here undetected, and you can always put that ward down there, and no one will know the better. Of course, just even if you do take that tier 1 tower down, just putting this ward down is pretty good. Just so you can see further up and you see any rotations or if they smoke. Always putting down aggressive wards when you push towers is always a good idea. Normally in my pubs, this is going to get dewarded because of the tower, but normally in my pubs, every time I take a tower, especially a tier 2 tower, I put a ward down in the mid lane, because this allows me to see all of this area. These are always common, smoke spots for enemy carries, especially if, like, say we're farming in mid lane here, the creeps are all the way over here, and they're all just up here. Then it really just gives you a lot of intel to where they could be. Of course, there is also these ward spots here. These ward spots here, these will always help you out. In the same concept of playing aggressive wards is putting a ward down here. This is also another non-common ward spot that will not get dewarded here, but basically gives you almost the same information. You just don't get to see the dire ancients, but you do get to see behind the tower if you're trying to push this tower, which is it's pretty good. This ward spot is good because it's not going to block the camp, so they won't get suspicious, and you get to see up a little bit. This is a little bit better ward spot if you're trying to do Roshan. Of course, there's also this ward, which is a little bit more uncommon, and they have to have high ground vision to be able to deward it. So that's also a good ward spot. Another good ward spot that is a little bit more uncommon that won't necessarily be seen in this area, because most of the time they'll put a sentry down right here, is putting a ward right on the edge of these steps. You put a ward right on the edge of the steps, you get to see the rotations into this area, and you get to see this camp. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit weaker of a ward spot because you don't get to actually see deeper into the jungle. But if you just want to get rotations that are coming here and you can see a little bit into this spot, this ward spot is not a bad idea. A lot of times it won't get dewarded because people put their sentries, here. They'll put it here. You really just want to push this ward as far close to the stuff as possible. These are pretty good alternate wards if you're trying to ward into this area as well. Another popular ward is actually you putting the ward here, because you get to. It's kind of in that same vein. It's a little bit stronger than the step ward because you get to see up here and you get to see a little bit into this rotation here. Again, most of the time, if I just want to put an aggressive ward down, I put it here because I get to see both outs, both ways this way. And if you can cut the trees, you can always do that as well. If you're playing someone like Lina or something, especially if you're playing someone like Lina, use your Light Striker Wage just to clear trees, just to give you more vision. More vision will never, ever, ever, ever hurt. And I think that should cover most of the Radiant, uncommon Radiant ward spots. Yeah, for the most part, that'll just be it. Alright, so this is going to describe, same thing as I did in my last video, or the last segment of the video. This is going to be now the Dire side, where you can put wards down if you're playing Dire support. A lot of people know that they're going to be putting wards down. They're like, alright, I'm support, I need to protect my offlaner. One thing to note as we're going to start off, do not put wards down in this spawn box, because blocking the spawn box is actually really bad, unless you're against something like an Enchantress or a Doom that just wants to eat this creep, because you need to use this to stack, get the lane back, do double pulls if you know how to do that. If you're going to put a ward down here, just put it down like out here or something like that. Better wards to put down, especially in the early game, would be a lane ward. And I can't stress this enough, as I said this before. Lane wards can really help you out, especially during the early game and in all parts of the game, because normally no matter which team you are, they're expecting cliff wards, wards up here, these spots here. Like, these spots are always going to be, or like even just regular wards here. Always just try to put wards down in the lane where possible. It's really unorthodox and gives you really good vision where the enemy can't see you. Same thing, this ward spot is good if you're against, if you're on Dire. For the same reasons as Radiant, it allows you to see very deep into the ward, into the area. During Sprint, when nighttime comes around, you get to see further out, and that's always good. You get to see further out, and that always helps, especially.
I thought as much.
You can always just wrap around and gank the Radiant offlaner.
Faster.
So that's a good ward spot. It also helps during defense as well. Same thing for Radiant if you're playing Radiant support. If that tower is still up, you can see TP's coming in. So this ward spot is always going to be good, especially as long as this tier 1 tower is up. Or this tier 1 tower is up, these ward spots here are gonna be, these lane wards are always good. Always good. Because your carrier is gonna get ganked and we don't want him to cry in QQ.
I thought as much.
These ward spots are probably better if you're trying just to protect your jungle, but a different ward that you can put down, especially if you don't want to get into a warding battle with the other enemy support, if they decided, oh, we're gonna sentry this, you can't put wards down here to safely keep your jungle safe, is this ward spot here. You put this ward spot here, looking at the vision, you get to see you get to see still the same rotation up into your jungle, so you can see anybody coming in there, but you also get to see if anybody is making a rotation into this area as well.
Agreed.
That is pretty, keep your safe lane pretty happy that this ward is here.
Swiftly.
and if they decide to walk down these steps or they're trying to gank you. I mean, this ward is a little bit better at protecting you, but you just won't see the rotation coming out of the river, which sometimes you won't see.
Forward.
So a ward's like a ward duo spot here versus here, or a ward spot there and there. If you're really just trying to protect your jungle, you're like in pure defense mode. This ward spot and this ward spot are both good.
Swiftly.
Other good defensive wards that you can put down, wards that you can put down here. It allows you to still see rotations coming in, but if you know that this is warded, or you just dewarded that, and the enemy had a ward there, and you're like, okay, I need to figure out a different place I can ward. Or if the enemy is split pushing you, like you're against like a Nature's Prophet anti-mage, like putting this ward down here is pretty good because you have to see if they're, you know, just jumping back and forth, or against a Broodmother. Like that's a common way for them to run. Sorry. Also, this ward spot's pretty good for that as well. One actually ward spot that I really like, especially if we're defending high ground and they can't get out and I know this is warded, I'll put a ward down out here. Having vision over this hill is super important when you're defending high ground. So that's always important. If your tier 3 tower gets taken, but you're still defending racks, another ward spot you can put down is here, and it'll basically give you the same vision as you had for your tower. So don't ever forget that. If you ever lose your tier 3 tower, just buy, and you're still defending, you still have a good chance to defend, just buy a regular ward and just put it down there.
Let's go.
Always will help you. Always will help you. More vision is always good.
Agreed.
Other defensive wards that you can put down that normally won't get dewarded, you can put it a little bit further out in the middle here. So the normal ward spots of, you know, sentries here, this won't get dewarded, but you still get the vision of, you know, this rotation and this rotation. And you can see a little bit over the cliff.
Down you go.
Of course, lane wards again, these are a little bit more obvious to put down, but when you can, that's always good for mid laner, especially during the first nighttime, when they're going to just be hitting 6, and they can kill the enemy mid laner and GG easy mid, feed mid, report mid. The other defensive wards that I enjoy are this spot here. This spot, if you know that you can't get out, let's say the enemy like warded here, like you're like, all right, I can't walk this way. I don't want to get into a warding battle with the Radiant support, so I'm not going to reward here because they're just going to be like, oh, I'm going to plant another sentry here and just take out your ward that you put down. You put a ward down here. This ward will help protect, see a little bit into your mid lane. Anybody's walking up here, turn off the tower vision. You get to see a little bit into your mid lane if somebody comes up here. More importantly, especially if you do lose this tier 1 tower, you get to see this rotation up here as well.
Yes.
And across the river, so if anybody's running across this way. Of course, you can vary this ward, you can put it down a little bit closer here. If you're not worried about your ancient stacks or something, or if you have vision further out to see any rotation coming into your ancients, this ward is also pretty good for the same reasons. Thank you. Other going into aggressive wards, let's say like, okay, we're winning, we're doing well, or you have a gank heavy lineup.
Here I come.
Ward spots that are generally good. Same as the Radiant, like this one is good to see who's farming here, any rotations this way. Generally good, that won't get dewarded if you're the offlaner. This ward spot is good to protecting yourself. Of course, you can also use this ward spot to block. I would always suggest putting it as far as possible this way. It's easier to deward, but if you get lucky and they don't deward you, then you get very good intel for this rotation here, especially if you're trying to play more aggressively up. And any rotation kind of comes up that way. Again, this is probably just a little bit better because you have to see it. If the supports are going for rune, you have to play more aggressively or something like that.
Forward.
Everyone knows about this ward spot. I went over this in the Radiant, but this ward spot's also good if you're playing as Dire. Just because it's not usually going to get dewarded here if they put their sentry here. They'll have to put their sentry out here in order to stop you. In order to deward that ward. So this spot is good as an aggressive ward. You get to see both rotations here. You know if they're going to farm there. You know if they're farming there. all good ward spots.
Faster.
Of course, like I said, this ward spot is good. I usually prefer to put this ward a little bit further this way, just so I can see a little bit farther out, more into this way, especially if
The ice bite.
this tier 1 tower is still up, but you can still, but you're playing really aggressively. You get to see if anybody's farming this camp. This ward doesn't necessarily allow you to do that.
Your mid tower's in a bit of a bind.
Again, if you have an ability to clear trees,
Swiftly.
clear the trees. Clearing trees will give you way more vision.
I'm not ready.
Vision more into the lane.
I'll not argue.
And yeah, more vision is always good. So if you have an ability to clear trees, clear trees. Plant the ward,
Here I
clear
come.
trees. Always good. This ward is a little bit more known, but not always used. Again, it's basically like the sister ward to this ward spot.
Forward.
And just that you get to see a little bit deeper into their jungle. You get to see this rotation, anybody farming here, and anybody
Let's
coming
go.
this way. It's good at protecting Roshan. This ward is also generally a nice ward to have.
Agreed.
Those are pretty good wards. Another unconventional
I
ward
know.
spot. This ward was a little bit better before the map got changed, but it still has some value to it. The fact that you can see a little bit into the vision of coming up. Okay, you get to see this farming pattern, any rotations behind the tier 1 area, and any just movement in that area. It's not as good a ward unless you have tree clearing abilities, but this ward can generally be an okay ward to put down. Of course, you can put a ward down out here.
Into the breach.
This will allow you to see anybody operating behind the tier 2 tower, especially if you're pushing it during nighttime.
Swiftly.
And you get to see anybody farming this area. Normally this ward, if you can get out here, this ward will not get dewarded as well, because normally they're going to put down their sentry here and be like, where's the ward? I just got ganked there. You can just always see it. And if there's any smokes in this area, you'll get to see it. Because a lot of times they'll be like deward here, and then they'll smoke like up here. And they're smoking up here, then you get to see the smoke animation.
Yes.
Of course, more lane wards are never a bad thing. This is similar to this ward here that I showed on the Radiant side. You just can see deeper in and do shenanigans with killing couriers and whatnot. Always remember, I'm going to say this as a reminder, lane wards are always good. Deep lane wards, especially if you take the tier 2 tower, put a ward down in its place.
I thought as much.
You get to see all this area as well, and just kind of really keep tabs up, and you can just play more and more aggressively. That ward spot's more commonly known, of course. A lot of people don't, I don't know why, but a lot of players don't take advantage of this ward spot, even though it is Valve put that in for people to use. This ward spot is generally only good if you're going to push this tower. That is generally, or if you're going to, you're going to gank the offlaner a lot, you're going to do wraparounds and dives. This is the only good time to put this ward down, because you do not get to see, it is not the same as this ward spot, in the fact that you get a little bit defense on your ancients, and you get to see like this rotation here, which is super huge, especially when you're trying to defend the tier 1 tower and the tier 2 tower. This ward spot is only good to play aggressive. It's kind of in the same vein as putting the ward out here, but it's generally, this is more an aggressive ward. You do get a little bit of protection for your carry, but a lane ward here, it will just do the same. That'll just do all the same. And again, of course, putting wards out here. You do also have your cliff wards on the side, and that's very situational for if you're playing against Tinker or Broodmother or some shit like that.
Forward.
And for the most part, that should cover dire wards.
Yes.
Yeah, that should cover for the most part dire wards. Of course, if you
Faster.
do take a tier 3 tower, always remember that you can put a ward down on their high ground, which will allow you to see in their base. Just always make a habit of that if you're pushing the base. Carry wards. Always carry wards on you, which will allow you to If, say, you take the tower, but you don't take the racks, the ward will help you see up the hill and deeper into their base.
Indeed.
So things to take away: lane wards, and try to remember putting wards down
Into the
where
breach.
your team needs them, not where you just always put them
Forward.
down. If you're playing more defensively, put more defensive wards down, and try to, and more importantly, put
Let's
them on
go.
rotation spots. Rotation spots are really kind of a hot commodity in terms of control. So if you're playing defensively, put them on rotation spots, whether you're Radiant or Dire. Like, it's a good ward for Radiant. This area is also good for Radiant. These wards are also good for Dire for rotation spots.
Battle.
If the enemy team is pushing a lot and your tier 1 tower becomes like a really hot point of contention, then put your wards down in the mid lane. Putting a ward down out here
Indeed.
during nighttime will allow you to see across the hill. Or if you can, put it out here. These are common ward
Yes.
spots, but think about putting wards down where your team needs them at the time. Just always remember to do that.
Here I come.
That's just the only thing to keep in mind. Thinking about where your team needs
I thought
wards
as much.
on in what situation will help out your team immensely and help you out
I
and
know.
raise your skill level. That's probably the one thing that definitely helped me out in competitive play and in pub play, and kept my team alive, because a lot of the times my teams will feed in the beginning, and you just need to, if you're just support and you're like, alright, what do we need? We need to be careful, and we need protection, and so you protect your team, and they're safe, and they don't die. And that's always good. Or if you're playing aggressive, then enable your team. If your team is in the lead and you take the tier 1 towers out in the beginning, then don't put wards. Let's say you're Dire and you take all the tier 1 towers, then don't keep putting wards defensively. You want to be putting wards aggressively. You want to be putting wards, in these spots. These are common spots, but you want to be putting the wards down
Agreed.
out here. You want to put them in their jungle. You really just want to put the pressure on, because when you have the wards up that much, you not only get to farm your side of the map, but then you get to start to control their side of the map, especially when you have the heroes to do that. So that's about it for now. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Delta Fox Bravo, and have a good day.